Hello, welcome to Indie Tutorials. My name is Guillermo and I would like to thank the patrons supporting this channel. Let's start today with the process of tweaking the system to tailor it to something more Bloodborne-like. So you remember that if we start playing the game and we start consuming the stamina, it goes away right away, or we end up having no stamina at all in less time, and that's because the current system ORK framework, it expects the stamina value to be an integer, and in this scenario where we want to consume decimals or a fraction of the stamina, that is not possible. So what we need to do is to bump our stamina status a little bit. So let's stop play mode, open up ORK editor, and what we can do here is go to the status section, then in the status values select stamina, and here you will see that in the status value settings we have to start at 100%. Then if we go to the combatant section and check the combatant itself, which is a player, and select here the status settings and scroll down, we'll see that we have the max stamina of 200 points. So let's start by bump this up to 500 and save the changes. Let it save. What about now? What about now? What about now? Okay, what about now? Okay, so after 2 minutes, and trust me guys, 2 minutes, so we can go back to the status section here, and we can check, for example, the max stamina, where we have the maximum value to 999. So let's edit this one and let's bump it up again, and let's say 2000. Click OK. Then I will jump into the abilities, and where we have the backstep, the roll, and the sprint abilities, and we need to change how much stamina this will consume. So for the backstep, let's go to user settings, scroll down, and we set previously to consume 10 points. So once again, let's bump it up, and let's say in this case it will be 25 points. For the roll, let's say 35, and we can keep the sprint to 1 point as consumption. Then we need to jump into the status effect, and where we have this stamina regen. So if we go to the change settings and scroll down, we were consuming, or we were just regenerating every 0.1 second 2 points of stamina. So let's change this as well, and let's change here in the time, let's switch to 1.01 seconds, and we are going to regenerate 5 points in this case. So let's save the changes once again. Hopefully it will be faster this time, and it is. So let's close it up, ORK editor, and let's give it a try and check it out, the stamina consumption now. So, well, the logo is of course blocking the stamina bar, but let's backstep, and you will see that we can regenerate right away. If we roll, and if we start sprinting, the consumption is slow, but then the regeneration goes faster. So that will allow us to actually play test the jump better, like so. So I will say mission accomplished about the tweaking the stamina status. So let's move on for the next one. The next one is, of course, making advantage or taking advantage of the Animancer 7.3 feature, which is to make the current state visible in the inspector. So it's serializable now. So let's go to our project folder and select the scripts, and from here we go to behaviors, character state, where we had our character state, which is not actually, we need to go to the character script where we have our state machine itself. So let's double click and open up Visual Studio. So once the script is open, scroll down and we can see here we have our public read-only state machine. Now in 7.3 Animancer, the state machine class is serializable or serialized. So we can just mark this variable with the serialized field attribute. And of course we need to remove, in this case, the read-only statement, because we are going to make some changes here. So remove the read-only. So now it's public state machine, and up to the end of the state machine name of the variable we can comment this out if you want to keep it for later reference the way you have it before, like so. So after having the variable as serialized, we need to call the initialize after the serialize method from the state machine class. And to do that, let's make room here. So let's type state machine initialize after deserialize, and this will do exactly what it says. So after making this change, we can test it out in the inspector, and we can see now in the inspector the current state that we are at. So let's Unity compile. And click Ctrl P. Let's select the player once it's spawned, and if we look at the inspector on the right side and scroll down, we have our character script. We have the state machine now is available in the inspector, and we can see that the current state is the locomotion state. So if we were to start jogging, we're still on this locomotion state. If we press spacebar, you will see that we switch to the dodge state. Similarly, if we start moving forward and press the spacebar to roll, you can see that the current state now is visible in the inspector. So mission accomplished. Let's move on for the next one. The next one is about the Strafe locomotion state that I mentioned previously. I'm not quite happy with the blending between the slow strafe and the fast or jog strafe. So what I will do is, instead of using the linear mixer, which is causing this behavior in the movement, so I will basically remove or stop using the linear mixer state. This is of course optional. If you like the way it behaves in your game, just keep it. I will remove it though. And what I also will do is to add a variable for this magic integer that we have here, so we can tweak it in the inspector. So let's add here a serializable field, and let's call it private float magnitude threshold, and let's set it to 0.98 f. So we can then call this one down below, and the next to remove the linear mixer state, what I will do is to comment out the variable itself, so I can tell right away what is being used. So the whole awake method, we can comment it out or delete it altogether. Then in the onEnter state, we are going to use our old friend current mixer approach. So let's create a property up here, and let's call this one private mixer transition 2D. This is what is going to return this property, and the property name is going to be current mixer. So we do a get, and then we check if our character movement direction magnitude is bigger than our magnitude threshold, then we play the fast strafe or strafe jog movement, right? So in this place we return a strafe jog movement. Otherwise, we return the strafe walk movement, right? So at this point we copy the property name here and we paste it in the character animancer component play, so it will play the current mixer. Since this is a loop animation that needs to be checked every frame, we are going to use the update method for this scenario again. At this point, of course, we can remove this logic about the magnitude once again, so either comment it out, and actually we can comment it out all this stuff like so. So now we can check if our current mixer state, right, is not null. Remember, we talked about in the previous video that sometimes some frames we get a null, the state is null, so we get a null exception, and to avoid that we do this double check. And after having a proper state, we can set the parameter to be our character movement, or we could use right away the move direction again, character move direction. There we go. And after setting the parameter, we can just copy this one again. There we go. So now we can save the script, go back to Unity, let it compile. And let's give it a try. Now I'm using the gamepad So I will tap the right stick to go into lock mode, and I'm moving all the way the stick, but if I just tilt it a little bit, then we can see the movement is much better. Still some transitioning, weird transitioning between the animations, but definitely much better than using the linear mixer. And of course I don't have 8 degrees animations, just in 4 directions. That's why we have some weird blending when trying to do diagonal movement. But again, I will say this mission accomplished once again. So let's stop play mode and let's continue with the last tweak for today. More like a tweak, I wanted to show you how easy it is to change the model, the character model that we are using. So by using this approach of having the game object with all the logic of the character, but the visual representation as a child of this big or this player game object, makes it easy to just replace the character itself, the visual representation of the character. So I have imported already the Polygon Pro free characters. So we have here in the sources folder, let's see if I can find them, modular armors, meshes. I have already renamed the female and the male character, because otherwise it will create this long avatar name which I don't like. But we have the male and the female characters, which is pretty good, because this will help us showcase the modularity when selecting or switching armors, not just equipment viewers with the sword or the shield or a hat or the helmet, which is easy enough to do it, but what about switching the armor itself, right? So what I did is just to rename, it was this some sort of this long name, PG, medieval, male, armored, male, whatever. So once again, if we go to the player prefab, so let's click on select to go to the folder it is. Let's make a backup just by duplicating this one. So we have our backup, and from here we can open up the prefab itself. So let's double click on pplayer, and here we have the mesh game object with the challenger FBX or mesh visual representation. So if we were to hide this game object, we can go back to the Polytop Studio characters. Where was it? Once again, meshes, yes. So we have the female or the male. I will just drag the male itself as a child of the mesh game object. Out of the box, it will add an animator, because these characters are already set up with a humanoid rig, which is important in this case. And what we need to do with this animator itself is just click the avatar, so it will point it out where the avatar is. Select the player game object in the root, and in the animator of the player game object, drag the male avatar and replace the challenger avatar. Alright, so at this point we can go back, and here in the challenger itself we can delete it altogether, because The good thing about it is that the Cinemachine camera is looking at this game object, the target group is outside, so nothing to do with the mesh itself. So by doing that, we can go back to the male game object and we can remove this animator component. Of course, by dragging this, it's making a prefab out of it, so let's unpack this prefab so we can remove this animator component altogether. After that, let's go back. So we did the changes on top of the player prefab. That means that without any further changes, we can just hit play. Let's make some room here. And we have our new character, and of course it contains all the meshes that come with the polytop, so we are going to make prefabs and hide some of these parts in order to implement the modularity of the character and change equipment. So yeah, there we go. So I hope you like the video, and thank you all my patrons for supporting the channels. I will upload this project once again to the patrons. Will be available there, and see you on the next one.